So I hear this all the time. Okay, Brandon, you're saying dealers are struggling. I am hearing from all these I about said YouTuber. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a car dealer that puts videos on YouTube. But we're hearing from all these sources. Okay, dealers are struggling, but we don't see lower prices. And I'm going to tell you, yes, you are right, because you're not going to be able to walk onto a dealership and see lower prices. I can tell you how you can get lower prices from these dealerships, how we can see that these dealerships are struggling. I can show you what I'm doing in my dealership right now. I've got a list here of the cars that I've bought in the last week, and I'm going to show you what prices we're paying right now. I'm going to show you really what we're going to sell these cars for. All that's going to be in this video. It's going to be later on. But I want to get back to the comment I get so frequently. Okay, Brandon, the car market collapse has started. We see that wholesale prices are plummeting. We can see all the charts, but we're not seeing it in real life. What is going on? Well, the sad part about it is a lot of these dealerships, they're not going to advertise what they'll actually take for vehicles. And I know that it's been a constant over decades and decades and decades that they're not going to just put out on their cars like my dealership does what they will actually take for the car, especially at these new car dealerships. You'll see an MSRP sticker, and that's about it. So what you have to do is you have to literally go inside to start poking on these dealerships. And it's just now recently that I have started to see some of these new dealerships put signs on a couple of their cars that maybe they've had for 150 all the way up to 300 days on their lot, where okay, the MSRP is $38,000, but we'll take 35 grand, and they'll do this little hangy sticker on the front. But it's few and far between. But I know at these like Stellantis dealerships where you're seeing Rams, these Jeeps, all these Chargers, these Challengers stacking up. We know that there are incentives coming from the manufacturers. We know that dealerships are taking money off of these vehicles. But if you just look online, if you just look and walk up onto their dealership, you're not going to see this. And I know it's grimy and you don't want to do it. But if you want to find a good deal right now in this car market, you're going to have to literally walk into the dealership. You're going to have to talk to a salesperson. You're going to have to poke on the sales manager. And I know you don't want to do it, but if you want to find a deal, that's what you have to do. You might even have to go to a different dealership. You might have to go to a different state than where you are right now if you actually want to try to find a deal. And another issue that or another comment that I get a lot is, okay, well, if all these dealerships, especially on the used car side, are struggling, why aren't they just marking their cars down and try to move them to consumers? And we're seeing a lot of these cars pop up at auction. I'm showing you that on our main channel. That a lot of these independent dealers, which are used car dealers just like me, are running their cars through auction instead of selling them to consumers. Well, the big problem with this for used car dealers is a lot of them, they need to raise cash and they need to raise it quickly. And going to a retail consumer takes a lot of time to move a vehicle to, where you have to wait. You have to lower the price. You have to wait to see if that's the right price, see if you get leads, see if you get people that are interested in it. Then the people have to come, they have to test drive the car, they have to figure out financing. All of this can take days and days and days. And if you don't find the right price initially, if they just lower it 10% and they still get no hits, then they have to lower it 10% again. And usually they'll wait a week, 2 weeks, a month even, to figure out if that's the right price in this market. I relate to a lot of these markdowns in the used car market, on the new car market, just like the housing market. So if you have an individual that has a house, even if they need to sell it, they don't want to drop the house from $700,000 down to $500,000 instantly, but just because they need to sell it. Car dealers are just the same. So they'll lower the price by 10%. They'll wait, because that consumer, just when you lower the price by 10%, it's just not going to magically appear. People look around, they check different dealerships. Usually, unless you're selling really, really, really cheap cars, people don't just show up on the lot and say, I'll take it. And there's this whole dilemma that they have to go through with financing, getting the right insurance. All this takes time. So if a used car dealer is strapped, if they do need to pay their floor plan, their credit lines to make them current, and they need to raise cash and they need to raise it right now, what do? They just dump it at auction because a car dealer can take a car to auction and guess what? They can sell it that day and they can get a check that same day. It can be in their bank account the next day to start paying their bills, to start paying their credit lines off. And this is what a lot of them do. A few years back, even before all the craziness, I had a buddy that was a car dealer, and he was going out of business. And it seemed weird to me at the time, but I understand it now. He had floor plans that he had to pay. He had credit lines. He was using three different credit lines to stay current. He was using one credit line to pay off another credit line, using that credit line to pay another one, and just keep on cycling around. Obviously, he was not doing. He was not very wise with his money. He was not doing the right things to run a good business. He got leveraged up to his eyeballs, and he couldn't take it anymore. So he had to get rid of all his cars. So he was in a position where he couldn't, okay, lower all his prices by 20, 30% and then try to move them because he would still have to wait. So what he did is he took every single one of his vehicles. He had 20 to 30 very nice, like he had Jeeps, trucks, really, really nice cars at the time that were really expensive for the area that he was in, and had to dump them all. And instead of, he probably could have lowered them all by like 20 to 30% on his lot and sold them to consumers, but it would have taken time and he needed that cash now. So he took them to auction. He ended up losing like 40% on every one of those vehicles. And that's what a lot of these dealers are facing right now, and why a lot of times you're not just going to see them like slash prices. You'll almost never see in a dealership slash prices, because if they get into that mode where they're in big time distress mode, where they're about to go under, or they have to raise quick cash, they know where they can go to raise quick cash, and they're not going to a consumer to do that. They're not trying to wait on that magical consumer to come onto their lot. They're sending that car straight to auction. And that's why you will probably never be able to walk up on any kind of dealership and just get a steal of a deal unless you just find that magical dealership that maybe doesn't have a ton of debt and they were able to steal the car themselves. It's going to be very rare for you to go to a dealership and just absolutely get a great, great, great deal, especially right now from these new car dealers, because they're having to pay so much to these manufacturers. And these new car dealers, they can pull a lot of strings. So even if they're really pressed by their floor plans, and they are being pressed by their floor plans right now, they owe tons and tons and tons of money on these vehicles. What once was a profit center for these dealerships a year and a half, 2 years ago, for their floor plans, their credit lines, now they're paying some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars every month just to keep current. And but they have levers to pull. So if they need to get certain vehicles off their floor plan, instead of moving it to a customer, a lot of these dealerships, they're actually owned by bigger auto groups. You see, I mean, what comes to mind is like Hendricks, Penske. I mean, you see all of these big Auto Nation. I mean, all these big dealerships. They usually own a lot of different dealerships. So what they can do is they can swap. They can move vehicles. It's not rare for me to go to a Toyota dealership now and see a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee sitting on the lot that's got 500 miles on it. This is what a lot of these dealerships do, just to move inventory around, to not have inventory that's sitting on their dealership for that celebrates birthdays. We are seeing more and more of that pop up. We see that the Car Edge, Zach pulls a lot of that data a lot, where you're seeing 2022s that are still sitting on Ford lots, these F-150s. And we're going to continue to see more of that as the economy gets worse, as consumers get more strapped by inflation, and they're not buying. We're seeing the inventory levels rising, and even in those cases, you're not going to see that dealership say, okay, this F-150, the MSRP is $76,000, even if they'll sell it for invoice, even if they'll sell it for 60 grand. They're not going to advertise that. You're going to have to go in and poke the bear a little bit and try to really force your will on them. Let them know that you're a serious buyer, but if they don't give you the price that they want to that you want to pay, then you're just going to leave. So talking about that, I saw a question like this earlier. So here's from Ron. Is there another method other than walking out? And I'll get to right after this question. I'll get to the cars that we bought last week. Show you what we paid for them. I don't want to forget that today. So, remind me if I miss it. Is there another method other than walking out to get dealerships to real pricing? Ours add a dealer value package for $28.50 lifetime warranty and a $2,500 for extra like nitrogen. I hate nitrogen. I hate nitrogen. So what I hate about a lot of these dealerships is now instead of just factoring out, and I've seen this a lot recently, like you're paying like $250 to $500 for nitrogen. They'll have this whole package. So they'll have your paint protectant, they'll have your nitrogen, they'll have door edge cups or whatever, but it's a full package that you have to purchase with every car. They say you have to purchase it. You can negotiate off of this stuff. But recently, my wife and I went to a dealership just a few days ago to look around at some of the cars. And there was even a package like this on the used vehicles, and it comes with just this a big list of stuff. And I asked the salesperson, I was looking at a used car. Okay, well, none of this stuff has been added to it yet because the car hasn't even been cleaned up. They just got it in, and I said, well, I just don't want any of that stuff. So just don't add it. I mean, I can take the car as it is, and you don't have to add that stuff. And he was like, well, we have a contract with the company that we gotta. It's not obviously they're putting on that stuff themselves. They're not really contracting this stuff out, in my opinion, because there was I mean, with the paint protecting stuff, they're adding it there. So I don't agree with that stuff. I do think you'll be able to negotiate off a lot of those things, especially in this market right now. But I really think, I mean, you can sit there and just say, okay, I want it for this price, and they'll keep coming back at you and they'll lower it a little bit if you're staying there and being stubborn about it. But I think at the end of the day, Ron, the best tactic is to literally say, okay, I will pay this. And if you don't want to give this vehicle to me for this price out the door is really what you want to negotiate. None of the other stuff matters. They can put on whatever add-ons that they want to. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters to you is the out the door price. So that's what we're going to negotiate off of. But I really do think that the best tactic is saying, okay, I want to buy a vehicle today. But if you don't want to do this price, that's fine. I'm going to go to the next Nissan dealership, the next Ford dealership or whatever. That's a town over. That's 20 minutes away. And I'm going to see if they can get me at this price. And I'm going there literally right now. So you can call me as soon as I leave if you want me to turn around. But if I get to that dealership and I haven't heard that you're going to let me have it for this price, then I'm going to start to talk to them and I'm going to see what they have. And I'm going to give them the same option. If they want to sell it to me for that, somebody's getting my business. And they're going to get my business at this price. And I would like it for it to be you because I don't want to have to travel. But this is what I'm doing, and I'm leaving right now. You have my number. That I think is the best tactic. I know that when my wife was pregnant, we went and looked at a Toyota Venza at a new dealership, and this is the exact method that I used back then. And I didn't buy it from an auction because they keep all the really, really nice stuff with the low mileage, and that's what we wanted. So that's why we went to a new dealership to buy. It makes me just sick to my stomach, even just saying it out loud. But we did go to a new dealership to buy a used vehicle whenever we were finding her a new to us Venza. And that's the tactic I used. I went and we drove the Venza. I think I can't remember if we both went 3 times. I know I went. I think I went one time by myself, but just to talk numbers. And I left. I said, okay, I want to buy this car, and I want to buy it for this price. And if you can't do that, then it's fine. But I'm going to leave, and you got my number. And they ended up calling me before I even got home and said, you know, if you got that, just bring your cash. We'll take it. Just come back. We'll take it. So that's the method that I would say is best is literally by leaving. And if they're serious about it, they will definitely call you back on it. But anyway, I want to talk to you about what we bought in the last we have a bunch of stuff on over there. Just some stuff that we bought in the last week. We were actually Tuesday, so 2 days ago, we were able to buy, what's that, 9 cars in one day. And this is another example of just showing you why I know that dealerships are out there struggling. For us to be able to walk into this auction and be able to buy that many cars, 9 cars is a lot. That's not typical for us to be able to buy that many cars at one auction. It's normal for us to buy 3 to 5 cars in an auction, but nine's a lot for us to go in and buy. And if we're able to do that, because we're not going to overpay for cars, that means that a lot of these dealerships, they're not able to buy, because if they were, they would be running up prices on us. And we're finding now that we're having an easier time buying cars at these auctions. And it's great for us because we don't have to sell for crazy amounts, and we don't have to have any extra fees, because we don't use a floor plan, we don't use a credit line or whatever. So if we can buy cheap, we can sell cheap, we can roll volume. That's what we like to do. And our average what we make per car is right at that $1,200 price point. So we'll make $1,000 on some cars, we'll make $1,500 on some cars, we'll lose money on some, we'll hit a home run on some. But we try to make the ones where we lose money on is very rare, and the ones that we're going to actually hit a home run on, where we just go to auction and steal a car that's maybe a $3,500 car and we only pay $1,000 for it, that's a very rare circumstance too. Usually where we're landing in is right at that $1,200 is what we'll make on a car. All right, so we bought a 2000 Toyota Avalon. We paid $1,100 for it. And I won't give you the auction fees on every single car, but just so you know, there are auction fees on that one. It was $215 for your auction fee. And depending on how much we pay on a car, it ranges anywhere from $215 up to $285. So just know that we're going to be adding that to the cost of the car when I'm going through what we're paying for these things. And that's $1,100. So we'll have $1,315 in it. It'll be a $2,500 car. It's 2000 Avalon. We're probably not going to be able to get much more. Maybe if it's super, super, super nice, we can get 3,000 out of it, but it's probably going to be a $2,500 car for us. A 2005 Subaru Outback, paid $1,200 for it. Again, probably a $2,500 piece. 2007 Saturn Outlook. We don't like these cars particularly. They're like the cheaper version of like a Chevy Equinox. So not my favorite cars to buy, but if we can buy them really, really, really cheap, they're halfway decent. So we can still, if we can buy them cheap and sell them cheap, then we'll still buy them. So that Outlook we paid $1,200 for. We can sell it for $2,500. We bought a 2007 Toyota Camry Solara. That's the 2-door Camry basically. And we paid $2,000 for it. Be a $3,500 car for us. 2008 Kia Spectra 5. We like those little hatchback cars. They sell really, really well. Kias aren't my favorite, but those cars seem to sell really well, and they seem to last quite a bit. That one's got 180,000 miles on it. We paid $2,400 for it. It'll be a $3,500 car. If it's super nice, we'll be able to sell it for $4,000. Like I said, the little hatchback style, a lot of people really like that. 2009 Chevy Traverse. We only paid $1,000 for this car. So let me talk about this for a second. We buy cars that can have common problems. Like that Chevy Traverse is going to have a common problem of like timing issues. And I know that if we go in there, replace all the timing, redo everything that's inside of it, it's going to cost us about $1,200 to $1,400. And we're more likely to gamble on something like that if it's that cheap, because even we only paid $1,000 for it. So if we have to go in there and do all the timing, we're going to spend another $1,200, $1,400. We're going to be at $2,500, but we know that we can sell that car for right around $3,500 no matter what. It's just that's the price. If we have a Traverse, if we have a Acadia, which is the same thing, then we can sell for at least $3,500. They're just cars that we know that we can sell for a certain price point. So we can get into something like that, even though we know it's a little bit of a gamble. And we're going to know it right off, because whenever we start driving it, it's going to show its butt really quickly to us if it's got any kind of timing issues. And it's a problem that's easy to diagnose when you're driving it. Now, when we're at the auction The auctions that we go to, most of them, you're not able to actually drive the car before we buy it. And this auction was one of them where we can't just get it out onto the highway, the interstate, to be able to try it out to see if there's any kind of timing hiccups or anything like that. So we know that we have to gamble on something like that. And that's probably why we get something like this so cheap at auction, even though there might not be an issue, because all these other dealers know the exact same thing and they have common problems. But because we're able to buy it so cheap, we're able to gamble on it. And either way, I feel like we're going to win, even if we have to work on it. We bought a 2010 Jeep Patriot for $1,200. It'll be $2,500, $3,000 car. A 2013 Ford Edge, $2,800. I think we probably paid a little bit too much for that. It's got 171,000 miles. We're going to have to sell that for $4,000, $4,500 if we have to put any work into it. So sometimes we pay too much for cars. That happens. Hopefully we can still sell it, but right now it's very difficult for us to sell a car for $4,500. Our price range that we like to be in is anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 right now from what we're selling to customers, because exactly what I've been talking about for a long time. Consumers are strapped right now, and it's very hard for them to come up with even $3,500, $4,500, and almost impossible. You really won't see very many cars on our lot right now that are $5,000 or $5,500, like you saw back in tax time, because people were able to buy them then. They can't now. Nate, who is my sales manager, Alex, who buys a lot of cars, us three, we have little sit down talks every once in a while. And the last one that we just had was like, look, Nate came to me and Alex and like, if you want to buy cars, don't buy them where we have to sell them for $4,500 because we can't do it. This falls into that category. So Alex bought this one. Hopefully it's super, super nice. And I'll assume it is if he's paying that much for it, but it's still difficult for us, even if it's a very nice car, for us to be able to sell for $4,500 for $5,000, because our consumer right now, they don't have it and we don't finance. So the cash is very difficult for the average consumer to come up with now. And most people right now don't even have $500 in their bank account for a rainy day. So $4,500 is definitely difficult for our consumer. And the last one we bought from that auction is a 2013 GMC Acadia. Same thing I talked about earlier. That was a 2013 though, so I think they were a little bit better in the later years. But we paid $1,800 for it. It'll be $3,000, $3,500 car, as long as we don't have to do any timing work on it. So we'll get into those cars, check them out, and see what we can do with them. But yeah, that's our rundown for today. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I hope you have a great